Every day, we walk past empty bottles, ordinary, forgotten, destined for the trash. But what if I told you those same bottles could hold the power to transform your garden into a magical fairyland? In this video, we'll uncover 17+ enchanting summer fairy garden ideas that prove you'll never look at bottles the same way again. Welcome to Mind Over Decoration, where we turn everyday trash into whimsical treasure. This video will guide you through creative upcycling ideas for bottles, each designed to bring charm, wonder, and imagination into your garden. Use the timestamps to explore at your own pace, and if you have questions, feel free to comment below. Maybe to you, I'm just another voice on the internet. But behind this content is a real story, and a real family. This isn't just a video. It's a piece of my heart. Every like, every comment, every subscribe, it means the world. When you subscribe, you're not just supporting a creator, you're helping a dream stay alive, giving hope to a small family, one click at a time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing in us. In the quiet charm of a summer garden, there's a spot where broken things find their second life. Here, a chipped porcelain teacup, once forgotten at the back of a kitchen shelf, has transformed into something magical, a fairy teacup waterfall. The cup, cracked but still elegant, is perched at an angle as if gently pouring its hidden story into the garden below. From its broken edge, a cascade of tiny beads and shimmering pebbles flows downward, catching the sunlight like droplets of fairy dust frozen in midair. The stream falls into a miniature basin crafted from another discarded dish, where moss and small succulents have begun to thrive. It is not just a decoration, but a secret doorway to imagination. Children who pass by pause, wide-eyed, certain they've discovered the hiding place of garden fairies. Adults linger too, drawn to the nostalgic charm of porcelain turned into poetry. The waterfall does not roar, it whispers. It tells of summer afternoons filled with laughter, of stories once shared over tea, now retold through art. Around it, daisies lean as though listening. Lavender sways with each breeze, scattering fragrance like blessings. A butterfly lands softly on the cup's rim, then flutters away, as if it too believes in the magic. The garden seems to hum a little louder here, alive with quiet wonder. What makes it special is not perfection but transformation. The teacup, once destined for the trash, now holds the power to enchant. Its cracks have become rivers. Its broken edges, streams of light. And within its flow, life gathers, plants, insects, imagination, joy. When twilight arrives, hidden beads glow faintly, reflecting the last rays of sunlight. The waterfall becomes a lantern, a soft beacon calling you to stay just a little longer in the embrace of the garden. It is here, in the whimsical fall of a broken teacup, that the heart of upcycling shines brightest. Trash becomes treasure, ordinary becomes magical, and every sip of the past becomes a stream that nourishes tomorrow's dreams. As the summer sun melts into twilight, the garden begins to shift into something more mysterious, more alive. Shadows stretch long, flowers close their petals, and in the gentle hush of evening, the enchanted mason jar firefly lanterns awaken. Once they were just plain kitchen jars, glass forgotten on pantry shelves or bound for the recycling bin. Now, suspended from tree branches or nestled among flower beds, they glow with a magic all their own. Inside each jar, tiny lights flicker like captured fireflies, warm and golden, as though fairies themselves had stopped to rest. Some jars shimmer in soft pastel hues, painted by hand with swirls and stars. Others are wrapped in lace, casting delicate patterns onto the ground, like moonlight filtered through an old window. The effect is simple, but breathtaking. The garden feels alive with whispers, like stories carried on the breeze. Children run barefoot across the lawn, chasing the glow as though the lights might escape at any moment. Adults pause too, cups of tea in hand, smiling at how something so ordinary could feel so magical. The jars, imperfect in their shapes and scratches, become storytellers of their own, reminding us that even the humblest of things can shine when given a chance. Around them, lavender and roses glow faintly in the lantern light, their fragrance mixing with the night air. A moth flutters close, curious, then drifts away again. Above, the stars are just beginning to appear, but down here in the garden, the jars sparkle first, like an early constellation woven into the landscape. It is the kind of beauty you don't find in stores, because it isn't about price or perfection, it's about transformation. A recycled jar, a few flickering lights, and suddenly the night feels enchanted. The garden becomes more than just a place to grow flowers, it becomes a stage for wonder. As darkness deepens, the lanterns shine brighter, casting long trails of light across mossy stones and worn wooden benches. And in that glow, the garden feels like a secret shared only with those who choose to look closely. Here, in the soft breath of summer night, trash has become treasure, and the simplest jar has become a keeper of light, of dreams, of fairies. In the heart of the summer garden, a path winds gently between the flowers, not of stone or wood, but of butterflies. Each wing spreads across the earth in a mosaic of recycled bottle caps, their colors gleaming like jewels set into the soil. Once twisted open and thrown aside, the caps have been gathered, painted, and pressed into stepping stones that flutter beneath your feet. Some glow in bright turquoise, others in soft lavender, while warm oranges and yellows scatter like sunlight across the trail. Together, they create a dance of wings, an endless flight frozen into the garden floor. Walking the path feels like entering a secret story. Every step carries a rhythm, every color a memory. Children laugh as they hop from butterfly to butterfly, treating each one as if it might fly away if they linger too long. Real butterflies, drawn by the blossoms nearby, sometimes land on the mosaic, blurring the line between art and life. Around the pathway, daisies nod in the breeze, lavender hums with bees, and roses lean closer as though admiring the play of colors beneath them. The caps, imperfect in size and shape, become part of the charm. No two butterflies are the same, and yet together they create harmony, a reminder that beauty is not uniform but alive in its differences. At twilight, the caps catch the last rays of sunlight, shimmering like tiny wings still in motion. A soft glow lingers, as if fairies themselves had dusted the pathway with their magic before retreating into the trees. The garden hums, alive not only with petals and leaves but with imagination woven into every step. This whimsical pathway speaks of patience, of play, of possibility. What once sealed bottles of soda or jars of jam now seal stories into the soil. Each cap, once destined for the trash, has found its place in a flight that will never end. And as you walk barefoot across the cool, colorful wings, you realize, this is not just a path through the garden. It's a journey into wonder, a reminder that even the smallest discarded things can carry us somewhere magical. Hidden between the lavender and moss, small shapes emerge, bright red with white polka dots, like something plucked from a storybook. At first, they look like mushrooms, the kind you'd expect to find in a fairy tale glen. But look closer, and you'll see, these whimsical fairy mushroom stools were once nothing more than discarded yogurt tubs. Painted in cheerful hues, scarlet, sky blue, buttercream, soft lilac, they stand proudly among the flowers, each one transformed into a tiny seat fit for a fairy. Their rounded tops glisten in the sunlight, decorated with dots and swirls that sparkle like morning dew. The garden seems to lean toward them, as though nature itself approves of their charm. Children giggle when they spot the mushrooms, certain that fairies must have used them just moments before. Adults smile too, enchanted by the playful illusion. What was once ordinary trash now holds a kind of gentle mischief, inviting anyone who passes to believe in magic again, if only for a moment. The stools are scattered along a winding garden path, tucked into corners where ivy creeps and roses stretch. Some stand in clusters, like families gathered around a story fire. Others sit alone, quiet and proud, like thrones awaiting their fairy kings and queens. The colors brighten the garden in ways no store-bought ornament could, because each one carries a story of transformation. At dusk, when the light softens, the mushroom stools seem to glow faintly, their painted tops catching the last blush of sun. Fireflies hover near them, adding to the illusion that these are enchanted objects, left behind by unseen hands, waiting to be found. It is not perfection that makes them magical, but imagination. Yogurt tubs, once emptied and destined for the trash, now live as part of a whimsical fairyland. They tell us that beauty can be born from play, and that even the smallest, most ordinary things can become part of a dream. Here, in the quiet glow of a summer garden, the fairy mushroom stools sit silently. And if you listen closely, you might just hear laughter, soft, playful, otherworldly, echoing between the petals and the moss. In the golden stillness of a summer morning, the garden stirs with a different kind of song. Sparrows flutter, finches dart, and a curious robin perches nearby, all drawn to the shimmering heart of the garden, a magical birdbath fashioned from old mixing bowls. What once churned dough and cradled cake batter now holds sunlight and sky. The bowl, aged with scratches and softened by years of use, is lifted on a pedestal of stone and moss. Within it, clear water ripples with the faintest breeze, catching reflections of lavender and roses leaning curiously over its edge. Birds arrive in pairs and trios, hopping along the rim. They dip their wings, splash playfully, and chatter as if this bowl were their hidden meeting place. Each movement sends droplets scattering into the air, tiny sparks of liquid light that glisten like fairy dust before sinking into the grass. Around the birdbath, the garden feels more alive. Daisies nod as though applauding the spectacle. A butterfly hovers, then lands briefly on the rim. Even the air seems fresher, touched by the mingling of water, wing beats, and summer fragrance. The magic lies not just in its beauty but in its story. This birdbath is not store-bought, not perfect. Its base is uneven, its bowl slightly cracked, and yet it holds more charm than any polished marble fountain. Because it is real. Because it has lived another life. Because it proves that even the most ordinary, discarded things can find purpose again. At twilight, the water mirrors the sky, pink, gold, violet, turning the bowl into a painting that changes with each passing hour. Sometimes a candle is placed nearby, its flame flickering in the reflection, making the birdbath glow like a portal into another world. This enchanted piece is more than decoration. It is a reminder that gardens are not just about plants but about stories. And sometimes, those stories are told through objects reborn, a mixing bowl turned sanctuary, a dish turned dream. As the birds take flight once more, the ripples linger, carrying whispers of play and peace across the garden. And you realize, the magic is not in the bowl itself, it's in the act of seeing beauty where others see only waste. Between two mossy banks in the quiet of the summer garden lies a bridge so small you might miss it at first glance. Yet when you notice it, your heart pauses, because this fairy garden bridge, crafted from humble chopsticks and popsicle sticks, looks as though it belongs to another world. The bridge arches gently across a narrow stream lined with pebbles, or sometimes across a patch of moss that imagines itself as water. Its surface, carefully pieced together, is painted in faded pastels, mint, rose, lavender, colors that glow softly under the afternoon sun. Each stick carries marks of its past life, a bite of bamboo here, a trace of ice cream there. But together they form something far more than scraps. They form a passage. Children lean low to peer across it, whispering that fairies must use it at night to cross between flower beds. Adults, too, pause at its charm, marveling at how something so delicate can feel so full of story. The bridge does not carry weight but wonder, inviting imaginations to walk across its planks and wander into realms unseen. Around it, daisies lean closer, as if curious about the travelers that might pass. A dragonfly rests briefly on the railing, its wings flashing like shards of glass. The bridge holds still, but the garden around it moves, wind through lavender, bees circling roses, shadows shifting with the hour. At twilight, small beads tucked along the rail catch the last light, glowing like fairy lanterns. The bridge seems alive then, as if it is waiting, ready to welcome unseen footsteps. It doesn't need to be perfect. In fact, its uneven rails and slightly crooked arch make it even more believable, proof that fairies, too, craft with what they find. This tiny structure carries a powerful truth, that beauty often comes not from grand gestures but from small transformations. Chopsticks and popsicle sticks, once tools of a meal or a treat, now stand as an entrance into imagination. The garden hums gently as you look at it, and you realize this is more than decoration. It is a story, a spark, a bridge not just across moss, but between what is and what could be. falls over the summer garden, something extraordinary begins to happen. Beneath the branches of an old tree or resting quietly on a mossy stone, a simple kitchen object awakens into magic, the upcycled Colander Starry Sky Lantern. By day, it's just a humble relic of countless meals, a bowl with holes once used to drain pasta or wash vegetables. By night, however, it transforms into a universe. A candle or a string of tiny lights flickers inside, and suddenly the garden is filled with stars. Dotted beams of light escape through the colander's holes, scattering across petals, leaves, and soil like constellations drawn onto the earth. Children gaze in awe, pointing at the specks of light dancing across the roses. Adults lean closer, charmed by how something so ordinary could hold so much wonder. The lantern doesn't just illuminate, it creates an atmosphere, a spell, as if the very sky has descended to rest among the flowers. Around the glowing colander, lavender sways in the night breeze, their purple heads bathed in a constellation of golden dots. A moth hovers near, drawn by the light. Ivy along the garden wall glimmers as if sprinkled with fairy dust. Even the air feels softer here, filled with the gentle warmth of light and fragrance. Some lanterns hang from tree branches, swaying gently, their shifting light like stars in motion. Others sit grounded on rustic tables, turning evening tea into a celestial experience. Wherever they are placed, they invite pause, whispering to anyone who passes, "Look closer. Wonder lives here." It is not precision that makes them beautiful, but transformation. The scratches and dents on the metal, the uneven glow, all add to the authenticity of its charm. Because what was once a forgotten kitchen tool has become a maker of moments, a crafter of dreams. And when the night deepens, the colander's glow grows softer, casting a final sprinkle of starlight before fading into the darkness. Yet even after the light is gone, the memory lingers, the feeling of standing in a garden kissed by stars that were born not in the sky, but in the hands of imagination. Tucked beneath the arch of a rose bush, where petals fall like whispered secrets, rests a chair so small and so whimsical it feels almost impossible. It is not made of wood or stone, but from something once ordinary, a vintage teapot reborn as an enchanted fairy throne. Its spout curves gracefully to the side, now serving as an armrest, while the handle rises proudly on the other, like a carved frame from an ancient kingdom. The body of the teapot, once filled with tea and laughter, now forms the throne seat, cushioned with moss that glows emerald in the sunlight. Tiny cracks in the porcelain glimmer like veins of gold, as if age itself has decorated the throne with wisdom. Children crouch low when they find it, eyes wide with wonder. "This must be where the fairy queen sits," they whisper, tracing their fingers lightly along its painted flowers. Adults, too, linger, smiling at the absurdity and beauty of such a transformation. What once poured tea on quiet afternoons now pours imagination into the heart of the garden. Around the throne, daisies nod as if bowing in respect, and lavender leans close, perfuming the air with its calming scent. A butterfly lands briefly on the spout before fluttering away, and in that moment, the illusion feels complete, nature itself acknowledging the magic. By dusk, the throne glows differently. Small beads tucked inside its rim catch the fading sunlight, making it look as though the teapot holds embers of a fairy fire. It feels alive, not as decoration, but as a symbol. That beauty can be found in what we already hold, and that stories can be written even from discarded things. The throne does not demand attention, it waits quietly, patient and proud. And in its waiting, it teaches us something, the art of seeing possibility in the overlooked, the joy of reimagining what once seemed too ordinary to matter. In this tiny seat of porcelain and moss, the garden gains more than decor. It gains a crown, a story, a throne where imagination itself can sit and rest a while. At the base of an old oak tree, hidden between ivy roots and soft moss, a door waits. Small, arched, and impossibly charming, it looks as though it could open at any moment to reveal another world. Yet this fairy door was once nothing more than an old cutting board, scarred by knives and years of kitchen stories. Now, sanded and reshaped, it stands proudly as an entrance into imagination. Tiny hand-painted vines curl around its frame, dotted with pastel flowers. A miniature brass knob gleams faintly in the sun, and hinges, crafted from bits of wire, hold it firmly in place. The cutting board's grain, once stained with meals long forgotten, now gives the door a weathered charm, as though it has stood here for centuries. Children are the first to notice. Their eyes widen, and whispers spill out, "Do you think fairies live inside?" They kneel, pressing ears to the wood as though they might hear laughter on the other side. Adults, too, pause longer than they expect, caught between memory and wonder. The garden itself seems to hush, acknowledging the door as part of its secret. Around it, wildflowers bloom brighter, as if guarding the threshold. A butterfly drifts down, settling on the knob for a heartbeat before fluttering away. Even the air feels different near the door, warmer, expectant, alive with possibility. By evening, when fireflies emerge, the door glows faintly. Tiny beads set into its frame catch the light, creating the illusion of lanterns guiding fairies home. The effect is subtle, but enough to make anyone believe, just for a moment, that another world breathes quietly beyond the wood. It is not perfection that makes it magical but transformation. A kitchen tool destined for the trash now guards the boundary between the everyday and the enchanted. Its scars are not flaws but stories, proof of a life lived before it found its true purpose here in the garden. The fairy door does not open, not in the way we expect. Instead, it opens something far greater, our willingness to believe in wonder again, to see possibility in what is overlooked. And as you walk away, you glance back, half expecting it to move. Just maybe, when the night is deepest, the door creaks open and lets the fairies through. In a hidden corner of the summer garden, something unexpected catches the eye, not water, but the illusion of it. A winding path glimmers under the sunlight, sparkling like a river in motion. Yet this shimmering stream is not made of water at all, it is crafted from the shattered remains of broken plates, reborn as a fairy mosaic stream. Each shard tells a different story. Some still bear delicate floral patterns, faded from years of family meals. Others shine in bold cobalt, fragments of once proud dinnerware. Together, they weave into a ribbon of color, curling across the earth like liquid light. Blue and white pieces mimic rippling waves, while pastel pinks and yellows scatter like sunlight on the surface. Children crouch low, tracing the edges with their fingers, astonished that something once broken could feel so alive. Adults pause too, recalling kitchens filled with clinking dishes and laughter. What was once destined for the trash now flows with a quiet dignity, transformed into art that whispers of memory and renewal. Around the mosaic, the garden responds. Moss hugs the edges like riverbanks. Lavender leans in, its purple glow softening the ceramic shine. Daisies scatter along its length as though they've always grown beside this stream. A dragonfly hovers, catching the light as if it believes the river is real. At twilight, small glass beads hidden among the shards catch the fading sun, glowing faintly as if the water carries fireflies in its current. The garden hums with enchantment, and suddenly the mosaic does not look like imitation, it looks like magic. A stream for fairies, a pathway for dreams. This creation does not erase the plate's brokenness. Instead, it celebrates it. Cracks become ripples, sharp edges become waves. The very act of piecing them together transforms destruction into beauty. It is a reminder that even shattered things can be part of something whole again. As you step back and watch the light play across the fragments, the mosaic stream tells its story in silence, that beauty does not end when something breaks. Sometimes, it only begins. And in the hush of the summer evening, you almost expect to hear tiny footsteps on the porcelain shore, fairies wandering the banks of their glittering river, under a sky made of possibility. Of a winding garden path, tucked beside a mossy stump, something curious waits, a fairy village mailbox fashioned from an old kettle. Its spout, once pouring tea, now points cheerfully outward, while a small slot cut into its side beckons with promise. Painted in soft pastels, mint, blush, buttercream, it looks less like trash and more like a relic from a storybook town. Children who wander the garden always stop here first. They crouch low, peeking into the tiny opening, hoping to glimpse a secret letter or perhaps a fairy-sized newspaper. Some tuck little notes inside, messages scrawled in crayon, addressed to the garden fairies. Adults, too, smile as they pass, often slipping in folded scraps of poetry or blessings. Somehow, the kettle has become more than decoration, it has become a keeper of wishes. Around it, roses lean protectively, their petals brushing against the kettle's worn handle. Ivy curls across its surface, weaving naturally with the painted vines that spiral along its body. The garden itself seems to embrace the mailbox, as if recognizing it as part of its living story. A butterfly flits across the spout, landing for a heartbeat before taking flight again, carrying whispers of magic. In the evening, small beads tucked along the lid catch the last rays of sun, glowing faintly like lanterns guiding travelers home. Fireflies hover nearby, drawn to the shimmer, completing the illusion that fairies truly do come and go under cover of twilight. The charm lies not in perfection but in imagination. The kettle is dented, its paint chipped, its metal dulled by years of use. Yet these marks become its history, its character, the fingerprints of its first life, now folded into a second. What once steamed water now steams dreams, brewing stories instead of tea. And when the garden grows quiet, the mailbox seems to hum softly, as if filled with words unspoken. Perhaps the letters inside are not just children's notes but real messages, carried from one world to another. Perhaps, after all, the fairies really do have a post office in the garden. On a quiet summer afternoon, the garden hums with its usual chorus, bees drifting between blossoms, leaves rustling in the breeze. But then, another sound joins the song, a playful, tinkling melody that seems to come from nowhere. Look up, and you'll find it, a whimsical wind chime made from forks and spoons, reborn into music for fairies. Each piece of cutlery dangles gracefully from a rustic branch, polished not by effort but by time. Once they clattered in kitchens, stirring soups and serving meals. Now, they chime together when the wind passes, creating music that feels both familiar and otherworldly. A spoon rings soft and mellow, a fork taps sharp and bright. Together, they weave a tune that makes the garden feel alive in new ways. Children giggle when they hear it, certain it's the fairies playing bells to announce their arrival. Adults pause, smiling at the cleverness of it all, ordinary silverware transformed into instruments of whimsy. The wind chime sways lightly, catching sunlight on its curves, scattering glimmers across the grass like dancing notes made of light. Around it, the garden leans closer. Lavender hums beneath the melody, roses tremble gently in rhythm, and daisies nod as though keeping time. A bird perches nearby, cocking its head as if curious about the strange, metallic song. The air feels lighter, lifted by every breeze that carries the chime's laughter across the flowers. By evening, when the world softens into twilight, the chime still whispers. Tiny beads threaded along its strings glow faintly, reflecting the fading sun. Each movement, each sound, feels like a reminder that beauty doesn't have to be silent, and even forgotten tools can sing again. It is not a perfect harmony, but that is its charm. The uneven lengths, the mismatched shapes, the slight dents, all create a melody no factory could reproduce. A melody of imperfection, of transformation, of joy. And as you listen, you realize, the forks and spoons are no longer just metal. They are storytellers. They carry the memory of kitchens past and release it into the open air, where it mingles with lavender scent and summer breezes. In their playful song, the garden feels more than alive, it feels enchanted, touched by laughter only the wind and the fairies can truly understand. In a sunny corner of the garden, a tower rises, not of stone or brick, but of something humbler and far more surprising. Stacked one atop another, old tin cans, once containers for soups, beans, and fruit, have become a flower tower glowing with fairy twinkles. Each can is painted in cheerful hues, mint green, powder blue, blush pink, soft colors that brighten the garden with a playful charm. Small holes dot their surfaces, punched through with care, so that when twilight comes, hidden lights inside peek out like stars scattered across metal skies. By day, they are colorful planters brimming with blooms. By night, they transform into lanterns, their tiny constellations spilling across petals and pathways. From the top can, petunias tumble down in a cascade of purple and white. Below, ivy trails lazily, weaving between the painted surfaces. Marigolds and daisies nestle in the middle layers, their cheerful faces glowing when the lights within begin to flicker. It is as if each plant has found its own seat in this vertical orchestra of color and life. Children stare up in awe at the glowing tower, whispering that it must be the fairies' lighthouse, guiding them home when stars appear. Adults smile knowingly, charmed by the transformation of what was once destined for the recycling bin into something whimsical and alive. The cans, dented and imperfect, hold their past within their shine, yet now they carry something more: growth, light, magic. The garden seems to embrace it. Lavender sways gently nearby, its fragrance mingling with the earthy scent of damp soil. Bees hum softly in the day, while moths flutter curiously around the glowing holes at night. The tower feels like a bridge between times, sunlight hours filled with blossoms, and evening hours shimmering with secrets. What makes it enchanting is not just its beauty, but its dual life. It does not simply decorate, it transforms with the hours, telling two stories instead of one. A planter by day, a lantern by night. Trash reborn not just as function, but as wonder. As you step back and watch the flower tower glow in the twilight, you realize that the cans no longer belong to the kitchen. They belong to the garden, to the fairies, to the story that rises, layer by layer, toward the sky. In the dappled light beneath a summer tree, something sways gently in the breeze. At first, it looks like nothing more than a loop of wire caught on a branch. But step closer, and you'll see it, a tiny fairy swing, crafted from bottle rings and wire hangers, waiting patiently for its invisible guest. The seat, a small cushion of moss, is soft and green, perfectly shaped for someone no taller than a daisy. The ropes are made from twisted wire, bent and curved until they seem almost delicate. Bottle rings, painted in pastel pinks and blues, form the frame, their once rigid edges softened into a graceful arc draped with strands of ivy and dotted with tiny flowers. The swing looks less like trash and more like a secret invitation. Children are the first to spot it. Their eyes widen, and giggles escape as they imagine fairies lining up to take turns, their wings glittering as they soar above the lavender. Adults pause too, charmed by its whimsy, reminded of simpler times when even the smallest objects carried whole worlds of possibility. The swing moves as if alive. A breeze stirs, and it creaks lightly, swaying back and forth in a rhythm so gentle it feels like the heartbeat of the garden itself. Roses nearby lean closer, as though watching the performance, and a butterfly lands briefly on the mossy seat, only to flutter away, leaving the impression it had just tested the fairy-sized ride. At twilight, beads threaded along the wires begin to glow faintly, catching the fading sun. The swing becomes a lantern then, swaying softly, scattering light across the petals below. It is no longer just decoration but a story, of transformation, of play, of wonder woven into wire and plastic. The magic lies not in perfection but in possibility. A bent hanger, a forgotten ring, things once overlooked, now hold a place in the garden as keepers of imagination. They remind us that enchantment does not require grandeur, only a little faith in the whimsical. And as you linger, watching the swing sway with no one on it, you can almost picture her, a fairy child with golden wings, laughing softly as she arcs through the air, her joy blending with the summer breeze. In the hushed heart of the summer garden lies a pool of light. At first glance, it seems as though water ripples there, catching sunlight in shifting hues of blue and green. But when you kneel closer, you discover the secret. This fairy pond is not filled with water at all, but with broken glass shards reborn as shimmering waves. Each fragment tells a story of its own. Some gleam cobalt blue, remnants of a once-loved vase. Others flash emerald, the memory of a broken bottle. Soft pastels scatter among them like raindrops caught in sunlight. Together, they form a surface that glitters with the illusion of motion, as though the garden itself has bottled a piece of the sky. Around the pond, moss gathers like a soft shoreline. Daisies lean over the edge as if sipping from its sparkle. A dragonfly hovers above, fooled into believing it has found a hidden stream. And when evening comes, tiny beads tucked between the shards glow faintly, making the pond appear alive with captured starlight. Children who stumble upon it gasp in wonder. "It's a fairy's lake," they whisper, tossing petals across its surface. Adults linger, enchanted by the poetry of it, how something once sharp, dangerous, and discarded could become so breathtaking. The pond, though dry, quenches a thirst of another kind, the longing to see beauty where none was expected. The imperfections are what make it real. Edges glint unevenly, reflecting light in ways no still water ever could. Each shard contributes to the story, its jaggedness transformed into brilliance. In their togetherness, the fragments no longer speak of breakage but of belonging, pieces finding place, chaos woven into harmony. By twilight, the pond glows like a portal. It does not mirror the garden but expands it, offering a glimpse of another world where fairies might gather at the edge, dipping their toes into light instead of water. And as you step back, the lesson shines as clearly as the glass itself. Beauty is not the absence of brokenness. It is the act of reimagining what is broken, turning fragments into wonder. Here, in the fairy pond of glass and light, even shattered things hold the power to enchant. In the middle of the summer garden, a crown rises from the earth, not golden or jeweled, but crafted from the humblest of things. Twisted wires form its curves, looping and arching into regal points, while bottle caps painted in bright colors sit like gems along its rim. This is no ordinary trellis. It is a fairy crown trellis, built to honor vines and blooms as though they were royalty. At its base, ivy coils eagerly, climbing upward as if reaching for coronation. Roses twine through the crown's arcs, their blossoms spilling like rubies and pearls across its wire frame. Daisies thread themselves into the gaps, scattering white sparks of joy among the jewel-toned caps. What once was trash has become a throne for flowers, elevating them into the heart of a living fairy tale. Children circle around it, their eyes wide. "It's the fairy queen's crown," they whisper, imagining her slipping it on each night before wandering the garden. Adults pause too, amused and charmed, seeing how something as ordinary as wire and bottle caps could be reshaped into something whimsical and almost regal. By day, the crown gleams in sunlight. Each cap shines like a jewel, emerald, sapphire, ruby, catching the light in ways that feel almost intentional. By twilight, beads woven along the wire glow faintly, giving the crown a soft halo. The trellis becomes a beacon then, glowing quietly, as if fairies themselves had blessed it with their light. The beauty lies in its story. The cap's once sealed bottles, twisted open and discarded without thought. The wires once hung forgotten, bent and rusted. Now, together, they form a frame of elegance and wonder, a reminder that imagination can crown even the lowliest things with dignity. Around the trellis, the garden leans closer. Lavender perfumes the air, butterflies dance above, and a soft breeze seems to hum like applause. The crown does not belong to any one flower, it belongs to them all, a stage where vines and blooms can reign side by side. As you step back, the fairy crown trellis stands not only as a structure but as a symbol that magic is not always found in what is flawless. Sometimes, it is woven from what we nearly threw away, reshaped into something fit for a kingdom. And in the glow of a summer evening, you could almost swear you see it shimmer, as though waiting for the fairy queen herself to arrive. That brings us to the end of today's journey, 30+ ways to turn bottles into magical fairy garden creations. Which idea inspired you most? Was it the glowing lanterns, the whimsical bottle waterfalls, or maybe the tiny fairy houses? Tell us in the comments, we'd love to hear your favorite. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share it with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe for more magical DIY ideas. Every little action you take helps keep this dream alive. Until next time, keep creating, keep imagining, and keep finding magic in the everyday. See you in the next video.